Abyss Eaters, an ancient and malevolent cult devoted to the destruction of all creation, acting as the mortal hand of their imprisoned masters, the ancient gods. The Abyss Eaters are the first officially recognized faction to appear, with them becoming public at the very beginning of the era of the first global conflict. Though most believe the Abyss Eaters miraculously appeared out of nowhere in December of 1916 when they unleashed the Fortress of Evil, in reality, they have existed since the dawn of humanity. When the first humans discovered fire for the sake of warmth and light, there were those who sought after darkness instead, and heard the whispers of the abyss, becoming the earliest slaves of the ancient gods. For several millennia, they operated from the shadows, guiding humanity towards endless conflict and ruin. They would have succeeded long ago had it not been for the intervention of the Illuminati, a secret order dedicated to protecting humanity from both the Abyss Eaters and itself. For centuries, the silent and hidden war between the Abyss Eaters and the Illuminati was considered the norm. But with the recent creation of the Fortress of Evil, the cult revealed what they are truly capable of with the power of the Abyss. In a mere moment in time, they elevated themselves beyond manipulators of civilization into a true apocalyptic threat. Like all creations of the Abyss, and creatures obedient to the ancient gods, they are weakened by uplifting music and beautiful art. Yet, unlike the monsters of the Abyss, they can twist these expressions into horrific and mind-shattering abominations that empower themselves. In every form and action, the Abyss Eaters embody the most destructive and manipulative aspects of humanity, serving as its vicious executioner and cruel puppet master, forever hiding in the shadows and dimming the light every chance it gets. The Ancient Gods. These vile deities are incomprehensible entities that predate all known existence, older than any other deity, species, or cosmic force in the universe. Though they did not create humanity directly, they are ultimately responsible for all creation and life that emerged afterwards. Despite this, they despise every aspect of reality, seeking the absolute extinction of all creation. Their hatred for humanity first became public during the era of the first global conflict. Yet even though their vicious intentions are clear, their true forms remain incomprehensible. Those who are unfortunate enough to witness them will lose their sanity, and their bodies mutate into abyssal monstrosities. Throughout history, we have confirmed 5 names of the ancient gods through the Abyss Eater cultists, these being the Voice and the Void, the First Color, the Crimson River, the Primordial Consciousness, and
Black.
though one must remember, these are the only ones we know the names of. There is possibly much more trapped within the abyss. With that being said, the irony of these all-powerful beings is that they are trapped within a dimension called the Abyss, an endless prison created by their own children, the Old Ones. Yet even within this prison, the ancient gods exert terrifying influence, corrupting human minds, transforming those who hear their whispers into abominations, creating reality-warping oddities, and shaping the Abyss Eaters into instruments of universal annihilation. If this is the extent of their power while trapped, then it is an undeniable fact that should they ever be released, such a day would spell the irreversible doom of the entire universe. The Fortress of Evil. Famously known as the first ever oddity discovered by humanity and created by it too. Though to be more accurate, it was created by the Abyss Eaters, a cult of depraved maniacs who worship the ancient gods. Though despite being called a fortress, it more accurately resembles a castle filled with both medieval-themed towers and modern-day buildings. A majority of its structure is pitch black, only being illuminated with red lights within the buildings it houses. The base of the entire structure looks to be a bunch of earth and dirt clumped together, but is actually tangled tendrils of metal and flesh, forming into a solid ground that holds it all together. The Fortress of Evil stands 800 meters tall and is about 500 meters wide, allowing lots of tall buildings to exist within it. This abominable structure also possesses 5 legs that appear mechanical in nature, but are actually coated with factory-forged armor, protecting the tendrils of flesh and metal, holding themselves and the fortress together. Each of these legs are outfitted with large and bright red lights, firing concentrated lasers at the enemies that get too close, causing tanks to melt and turning entire armies of soldiers into skeletons within seconds. The tendrils of flesh and metal can also clump together to form large tentacles and hands, able to reach down and grab fleeing victims to either add to its own flesh mass or put inside one of the buildings to become test subjects for the Abyss Eater's vile experiments. A majority of the buildings do not necessarily possess any form of strange magic or machinery, but a few are factory buildings that constantly produce black smoke in the air, causing the violent storms that follow the fortress of evil wherever it goes. As for the rest of the buildings, they are filled with hundreds, if not thousands, of Abyss Eater cultists and the various monsters made by the ancient gods. At any time the fortress of evil was overwhelmed, the Abyss Eaters and monsters of the Abyss could fly or jump out of the fortress to fight anyone who dares to attack it. All of this, added with its natural speed of 40 miles per hour, made it an absolute nightmare to deal with during the era of the first global conflict. The Fortress of Evil was created in 1916 within Germany and forever changed the world with its presence and destruction. Thankfully, it was destroyed in 1918 of March when the United Nations of America created a railgun powerful enough to destroy it, even while it was rampaging through China. Though, to this day, despite only lasting for 2 years, the Fortress of Evil stands as the most terrifying oddity in existence, and a prime reason why the Abyss Eaters, and by extension the ancient gods, are our greatest enemy. Abyssal Stones. These stones are actually hazardous crystals that started appearing when the Fortress of Evil ravaged through our world. The crystals could also be found in the corpses of dead monsters from the Abyss. It is believed these crystals are the main connection and power source of all creatures that are made by the ancient gods. The crystals are considered hazardous as they release a strange but toxic energy that has been titled abyssal radiation. This form of energy affects all living beings it comes across, slowly mutating their physical and mental state, making common humans and animals grow spikes and patches of armored skin on their bodies, while becoming more aggressive and vicious personality-wise. It has been confirmed the Abyss Eaters relied on the energy released from the abyssal stones to help increase their numbers during their attacks around the world. Though abyssal stones are rightly considered extremely dangerous, they were helpful in creating meta-weapons, which are our only means of defense against the Abyss Eater cults and the monsters that serve the ancient gods. A prime example was when the British military was able to create the Excalibur Sword Mach 3, an electric sword powered by an abyssal stone, and has gone on record as the first confirmed weapon to actually hurt the monster of the Abyss. Ironically, it was the very power of the ancient gods that we were able to, and still can to this day, hold back the deadly power of the Abyss. Though there is no argument to the fact that the toxic energy released by the abyssal stones are most definitely the culprit for the recent changes in our world, including the rise of oddity sightings as the decades go by. Despite this, our world has unfortunately become reliant on the abyssal stones to help create new forms of meta-technology and progress our magic branch of science. Even if we were able to create an alternate power source, there is a very low chance we will ever be able to restore the world to what it once was. Abyss Walkers. The first ever creatures that were unleashed by the Fortress of Evil during the era of the first global conflict, which started in 1916. Abyss Walkers are considered the foot soldiers of the armies created by the ancient gods. Not the weakest, but the most commonly encountered on the battlefield, and arguably the least remarkable monster type of the Abyss. However, this in no way should infer that the Abyss Walkers are a threat easily dealt with. It's actually the opposite. Despite being mere foot soldiers, the Abyss Walkers are all individually walking calamities that can destroy entire armies and eradicate entire towns within a minute or less. Each Abyss Walker is fast, cunning, relentless, and precise when it comes to killing their enemies. An Abyss Walker can move a single meter within 1 second, and their blade-like arms have the ability to extend and shift in shape, allowing more efficient and brutal kills. Abyss Walkers are adaptive and knowledgeable enough to know how to traverse through any terrain and hunt prey no matter where they hide. They also possess a kind of immunity to music and art that most monsters of the Abyss lack. Granted, music, especially uplifting and joyful music, is irritating to the Abyss Walkers, but it does not kill them. In fact, they are good at identifying the source of said music and destroying it quickly. The fact that these monster warriors are mere foot soldiers is one of the greatest indicators of how powerful all monsters that reside within the Abyss truly are. It is for this reason that despite all the conflict that is occurring within the world right now, we cannot stop the production of meta weapons. If we do, even for a second, the ancient gods, and especially their loyal Abyss Walkers, will not hesitate to kill us all. Abyss Eater Cultists. The common human forces of the ancient gods, serving as frontline fanatic soldiers and chaos-inducing spies. Their ranks are made up of fanatics who have grown to hate humanity despite being human themselves, and thus serve the ancient gods willingly. A majority, however, are unfortunate fools who heard the whispers of the ancient gods and follow their words out of curiosity, only to have their minds destroyed by insanity and their bodies now puppets to the will of their new god. No two Abyss Eaters wear the same cloak, but they all do wear the same white mask that hide their faces and bear the symbol of their cult. Whether willing or not, every Abyss Eater cultist has been blessed by the ancient gods to where they cannot be hurt by conventional weapons. It was because of this power that the Abyss Eaters were able to cause as much destruction as they did in the era of the first global conflict. At least until the Excalibur Mach 3 was first utilized and went on record as the first weapon to kill an Abyss Walker. Besides their invulnerability to all the meta weapons, the Abyss Eaters are capable of flying in the air, teleporting to any location in their memories or sight, and most devastatingly, blast crimson lightning from their fingers. This lightning is the same as what is conjured in the black storms that constantly surround the fortress of evil, well known for burning flesh, blowing off limbs, and ripping tanks apart. They are also well known for utilizing many weapons that were either gifts from the ancient gods or items they crafted themselves by using the magic of the Abyss, with their most iconic weapon being Weeper's Oblivion. However, what really makes the Abyss Eaters so terrifying is their human element of blending into civilian populations. To this day, Abyss Eaters are well known for infiltrating societies, governments, and militaries to incite paranoia, rebellion, bigotry, and full-on civil war, all for the sake of demolishing order and spreading chaos to their enemies. It was this very tactic that the Abyss Eaters used that led to the Great Division of Russia, turning it from the massive country it once was into the many divided and warring territories it is now. The Abyss Eaters are also well known for creating their own warped forms of music and art that are soothing to the monsters of the Abyss, but agonizing and insanity-inducing to humanity and all other forms of life. These vile cultists are the ancient gods' way of mocking us by being unpredictable and chaotic, which is exactly how they view humanity and why they want to kill us all. Weeper's Oblivion. A sword utilized by the Abyss Eater cultists, granting them great power during the era of the first global conflict. This blade, though crude and uneven in appearance, is stronger than any known steel on Earth, and sharp enough to cut through an entire tank. It appears to be made of an obsidian-like material that radiates with a crimson energy. It simultaneously throbs disgustingly, as if it's alive. Above the handle is the crossguard, which takes the form of a warped and stretched out screaming face. This face can be seen moving from time to time and will scream out a piercing shriek, bursting the eardrums of all nearby enemies. This devastating and insanity-inducing shriek can be activated when the blade is grabbed by a non-cultist or by the command of the cultist wielder. The blade is cursed with a dimming energy that poisons and kills whatever is even slightly cut. The dead will later reanimate within 1 hour into psychos, which are zombie-like monsters that also serve the ancient gods. The Weeper's Oblivion is one of the primary weapons of the Abyss Eater cultists that was used since the beginning of the era of the first global conflict. However, they were mass-produced when the Excalibur Mach III was invented, which had its own mass production when it was revealed to actually be able to help soldiers stand on equal ground against the Abyss Eaters. To this day, no one knows how the Abyss Eaters made the Weaver's Oblivion sword, but given its horrific nature, that's probably for the best. Silent Wanderers. Living nightmarish weapons created from the bodies of victims captured by the Abyss Eaters during the era of the first global conflict. They are not very fast, only moving at a sprinting speed, and though it is extremely difficult, they can be killed with conventional weapons, eventually. What really makes a Silent Wanderer so dangerous is their ability to disrupt all forms of frequencies. With this ability, they not only interrupt important broadcasts and transmissions, but fill them with the whispers of the ancient gods, driving anyone who listens insane. It is believed the Silent Wanderers are able to control this ability through their fingers, which bend and contort in random directions, sometimes making them resemble the patterns of antennae. Because Silent Wanderers were once human, captured by the vile Abyss Eater cultists, one might assume they are the result of experiments with abyssal stones. In reality, the Abyss Eater cultists have found a way to expose their victims to one of the most powerful ancient gods,
the Voice in the Void.
This universal nightmare is the oldest and strongest of the ancient gods, being a living representation of the void of space, and how its cold embrace kills all life equally, and that it exists everywhere, and therefore is always watching. Silent Wanderers are those unfortunate few who were captured by the Abyss Eaters, who are directly loyal to the voice of the void, and mutated by its words into the monstrosities that carry the insanity-inducing words of their lord. Thankfully, though Silent Wanderers can disrupt any broadcast or recording, they are still very weak to singing music, as well as instrumental music. They are well known as one of the few monsters of the Abyss that can be killed when exposed to enough music. Still, meta-weaponry is a better alternative to killing Silent Wanderers, with a laser rifle being the best method. Silent Wanderers are quite slow, and therefore it's easy to underestimate them, but you should never let one get close to you. Each one has a powerful hand grip, never letting go of their prey. Then there's their large, sharp yellow teeth, able to cut through bone easily, and their mouths that can stretch large enough to bite a human head clean off. Silent Wanderers are a grave reminder that even the weakest monsters of the Abyss should never be underestimated. Broken Toys. These monstrosities are the unfortunate victims of the ancient gods. Due to them hating all forms of life, nothing brings them greater joy than warping all of reality into an unrecognizable abomination of its former self. Humanity is not exempt from this hate, as broken toys are the result of human souls being warped by the ancient gods into unrecognizable shapes. The most consistent trait among broken toys is their pitch-black bodies being so dark it practically radiates shadows, as well as the randomized positions of the soulless eyes and horrid teeth scattered on their bodies. Other than that, no two broken toys look similar in any aspect other than how horrific they are. Now doomed to be bound to the will of the ancient gods forever, they are sent to Earth to kill off humanity and all forms of life they come across with their rotten touch. Like any other monster of the Abyss, if you are killed by a broken toy, your soul will be sent to the ancient gods, and you will surely share the same fate. Broken toys were first discovered in September in 1917, when the Fortress of Evil manifested in Russia after mysteriously disappearing during the 1st of August. Upon ravaging the country of Russia, it continued to unleash Abyss Eater cultists and monsters created by the ancient gods, including newer and more terrifying creatures. The broken toys were included in these new attacks. It is believed the first discovered broken toys were the initial victims during the first attack of the Fortress of Evil. Since then, more have been discovered, and like the Abyss Eater cults, the broken toys are here to stay, so long as the ancient gods continue to despise our existence. If you are ever unfortunate enough to encounter a broken toy, then please remember the following. All monsters of the Abyss hate music, some even find it fatal. This especially goes for music that invokes the emotions of calmness and joy. Beautiful art can sometimes be utilized to ward off monsters of the abyss, but it shouldn't always be relied on. Though music and art, to certain degrees, can ward off monsters of the abyss, the utilization of meta weapons is the only way to kill them. This is especially in the case of broken toys. Floating temples. Consider the main Air Force units of the Abyss Eaters during the era of the first global conflict. It's often debated if these monstrosities were made either before the Abyss Eaters debuted to the world or during the rampage of the Fortress of Evil. Regardless, despite their slow speed in the air, the floating temples ensured both the fortress and any other Abyss Eaters were able to cause as much chaos as they wanted on the ground without having to worry about the skies. Military planes and air balloons of any kind were unable to strike the floating temples due to their natural immunity to conventional weapons, as well as their destructive power. The red windows on the top of the temples are able to blast straight beams of crimson fire that burn even metal into molten slop. This crimson fire cannot be put out by water or even freezing ice. Additionally, each floating temple has anywhere between 6 to 8 disgustingly bloody arms under the base of the temple that can reach out and crush or tear apart anything that gets within 20 meters of range to the temple. Despite being seemingly slow and limited in movement, these arms are able to act instantaneously to anything within the established range. They can bend and stretch into unnatural shapes and length to ensure whatever they're attacking will never be able to dodge or escape their range in time. Additionally, just like the Fortress of Evil, monsters of the Abyss and Abyss Eater cultists are able to enter the temples at any time and jump out. Because of this, it is believed that, in addition to having hidden sleeper cells all over the world, the floating temples were able to help the Abyss Eaters invade every corner of the world and spread chaos during the era of the first global conflict. The only things that were able to stand against these monstrosities were railguns created by the United Nations of America and the Tempest Aether Wing planes created by the Royal Arcane Corps of Great Britain. At first it was believed that all floating temples were gone after the era of the first global conflict. However, they began to appear around the world once again when the era of the second global conflict began in 1933. Ocean blood. A vast crimson body of strange fluid that has overtaken the entirety of the Mediterranean Sea. It first manifested in May of 1917 due to the Fortress of Evil shocking the entire world when it stepped off the coast of Italy and started walking on the water of the Tyrrhenian Sea, making its way to the country of Libya. During each step, the ocean water changed into that of the crimson fluid that now makes up the ocean blood. In the early days of its manifestation, it was disregarded as toxic in all aspects. To marine life, just being near the ocean blood was enough to poison and kill within mere minutes. For those on boats or submarines, the ocean blood seemingly flows just as regular water did. But as it turns out, the viscosity is much higher than even oil, and its density makes it no different to a stone ocean, causing any naval vehicles to receive heavy damage or even crash upon contact. Additionally, the more one stares into the ocean blood, the more they begin to lose themselves and feel as if there are voices in their heads, telling them horrible truths, and to jump into the toxic waters to make it stop. Though the viscosity is high, any living being who falls into ocean blood will quickly sink in, almost as if they are pulled in. Unfortunately, within ocean blood exist high levels of abyssal radiation, and it is believed this is the reason as to why aquatic monsters of the abyss manifest within it. As the Fortress of Evil walked across the Mediterranean Sea, the ocean blood naturally grew in size, causing more marine life to die because of it. With the growing number of marine corpses, the piles of rotting flesh was slowly mutated into horrific abominations, like the crimson leviathans, deep stalkers, and other aquatic monsters of the abyss. The ocean blood stands as another grand example as to why the Fortress of Evil was humanity's greatest enemy during the era of the first global conflict. Crimson Leviathan. Gargantuan whale-like horrors born from the unique oddity, ocean blood, which in turn was created by the Fortress of Evil. The Crimson Leviathans are the first reported aquatic monsters of the abyss, with their existence serving as a naval terror to even the strongest metaships on the sea. Their massive bodies stretched at least 30 meters long and 15 meters wide. They have grotesque dark red skin, with the underbelly of their bodies being an elongated mouth filled with sharp spikes consisting of both fanged teeth and exposed ribs, with the whole of this elongated mouth being able to open and close like gnashing jaws. All of this allows Crimson Leviathans to shred through steel hulls and tear apart entire vessels. Additionally, their red bodies are scorching hot and strong enough to ram into heavily armored submarines, bringing no harm to themselves, allowing them to capsize entire fleets in seconds, leaving any survivors to drown painfully in boiling water. Though their natural habitat is the corrupt waters of the ocean blood, Crimson Leviathans possess the ability to defy gravity, raising their bloated bodies into the air, almost resembling ore balloons. While in the air, they often unleash a crimson poison onto their enemies, either spewing it out of their blowholes in a mortar fashion, or barfing large amounts of it from their elongated and grotesque mouths. This poison does not burn or kill on contact, but instead infects the victim, causing their bodies to grotesquely bloat and quickly rupture, releasing corrosive acid onto everything and everyone around them. Because the insides of a Crimson Leviathan are hollow, they can serve as living carriers during strike missions for the Abyss Eaters, dropping large amounts of their cultists on the ground to ambush enemies. While back in the sea, they often carry hundreds of aquatic monsters of the abyss within their hollow bodies to spill forth during ocean sieges. They all have a haunting and distorted whale-like cry that can be heard for miles, signifying the terror that is incoming to those that are brave enough to stand their ground against the will of the ancient gods.